Welcome into what we are calling the morning after postgame show with two former Penn State offensive linemen. You might call us washed if you want. We are sitting here. We are at the student bookstore downtown. We are here every Sunday after home games, 10 to 11 a.m. I'm here with the big Keith Goon Conlin, and we are breaking down Kent State, Penn State. A couple other games went on, but Penn State won 56-0 yesterday, and it was obviously in a demanding fashion. But I felt like there were still some question marks, especially getting going early on.
Yep.
I think most of the fans were just a little bit worried, especially because we saw Illinois the night before. We saw Illinois go into Lincoln, Nebraska, and come out with a really good victory against a really well-coached Matt Rule's team. So I think everybody knew what we have coming to town next week, 7:30 p.m. in Beaver Stadium. It is confirmed versus Illinois next week. So I think when we got off to a little bit of a slow start, there was some worry. And I got a couple questions about this. Is it a team chemistry thing? Why do slow starts happen? Or is it just bad luck? And you look to Tennessee. So Kent State played Tennessee last week. Kent State, both their first two drives ended in fumbled snaps. The second one ended in a safety. So, Tennessee put up 40 points in the first quarter, 65 points in the first half. So there was some of, why are we not doing that? Why are we not able to do that? But then you look at the stat sheet and, us fans that watch the game from start to finish, it was like, okay, I'm not all the way impressed. But you look at the stat sheet and everybody that's on ESPN and it just says, hey, Penn State routed Kent State 56-0. We set an all-time yardage record for the offense by, I think, about 10 yards. And Goon just mentioned, we did it with basically our offense not being very good. We didn't score. I mean, it was 7-0 for the first 10 minutes. And I think that was, like I said, that was the expectation that we were going to get going quickly.
Yep.
And we didn't really do that right away. But I mean, I definitely like what I saw. I guess my question for you is, how much can you take away from a game like this when you're playing what may be the worst team in all of FBS football?
That was the worst football team in FBS history. That was a bad.
With the third string quarterback too.
No, it was like you felt bad for him because you did watch that Tennessee game last week, and you're as a competitor, as a football player. I mean, if I'm coaching or I'm playing for Kent State, I'm looking at my athletic director going, dude, you got us in front of 110,000 in Neyland Stadium last week and 110,000 this week and this and that. We ain't scored a point. Like, oh my God. It's like, was it worth it? I mean, they were playing their third-team quarterback by the second quarter. Both of the quarterbacks were in the hospital, actually. They both went to the hospital. I mean, I hope they're okay with lower legs and stuff like that. But I got to say this is that, recently, aka the last 5-10 years, we do not play well coming off of a bye week. Remember,
it has no. If
that was a better team, and we could have been down 14-0, 21-0.
Well, yeah, I think that's the main concern with Illinois next week. Is it's like they came out right away against Nebraska. They marched down the field and scored a touchdown. Their quarterback Altmaier. We saw him last year, and we gave him a lot of trouble. But he came in, like I said, Nebraska defense is good. He had 4 touchdowns, 250s through the air. So it's like you do that, and you come out still asleep against a better team. You're in trouble. And now I guess it's hard. Bowling Green, by the way, for those that did not see, they played Texas A&M yesterday. I think they only lost by 3 points down in A&M. So that Bowling Green team is good. That's a good team. Yep. I don't care what anybody says. I think they're going to win the MAC. So I know there was some worry about how we started slow there. We started slow kind of here against Kent State. But I think you're right. I think there's coming off a bye week. Everybody, you got to get the pads clacking again a little bit. You got to, there's nothing that simulates in-game, hits and contact and that type of thing. It just, you can't do it. You have to do the game itself. So to get back into it, it definitely took the guys a little bit of time, but I think we continued to see more of the same. I mean, when you pitch a shutout, it's a good day, no matter how bad the team is. I mean, you're enjoying, did you guys ever do donuts or anything for shutouts, or was that just normal for, we would get donuts. I remember the defense would come around. Well, it depended. The defense would pitch a shutout. 2021, I want to say with Pry, we pitched a couple shutouts and we would get donuts, but the offense would only get to indulge in the donuts if we also did okay. It was if they did well, they can have some donuts. But if it was a 21-0 shutout, it was you don't really deserve donuts. I don't know if you guys ever did donuts for shutouts.
Well, you're talking about Sunday morning?
Yeah, Sunday morning meetings.
Our Sunday was we weren't allowed anywhere near the building.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, so
that's awesome.
That was So we didn't have a morning to have something like that. But I know where you're coming from with it. But it's a nice reward for the defense to do that. Yeah, because you guys have practice on Sunday, and our thing on Sunday was Joe wanted us away from football, getting into the classroom, getting some schoolwork done, type of thing, and then get to work Monday afternoon was what we would be doing.
Dude, that's really nice because I mean you got to watch Sunday football too. Then
that's about all the time. It's like I can't fathom, because we used to. I mean, dude, what do you do when you watch NFL Sunday? You watch your old teammates and your friends and guys you grew up with.
Absolutely.
This is their time, and it's like, okay, this is what we used to watch it like religiously, because we would have our former players on, our former teammates and friends from high school and friends from guys we played against. But you're also picking up a few different like tools of the trade type of thing and watching games. I remember, just case in point, well before you even a thought or a gleam in your father's eye, there was a guy who played for the Dallas Cowboys, a center named Mark Stepnoski, undersized guy, like really undersized guy. And he played at Pitt. He was from Erie, just tough as nails. But he had it was world renowned how his non-snap hand, how fast we get on the nose tackle. It was just unbelievable. And that's one of the things that me, Jeff, Marco, Andre, Bucky Grillo, my little brother Kevin was a center. We would just sit there and watch it. Like, how does he do it? You know what I mean? So you pick something like that up, and then you go to practice the next day, and you try to do what you had seen on television, type of thing, to mimic what the best people in your profession are doing. So we really enjoyed watching games on Sundays and stuff. And yeah,
that's a really good point, because when I played, I was the same way. If I saw something visually that someone better than me was able to do, playing next to Olu Fashion, that type of thing, you see that, it's like, all right, let me give that a try. And then maybe you get beat, and you're like, okay, I can't do that. I'm not as good as him. But that's that is how it goes. So it is nice, but I think that's how it is up to the school how that works and up to the coach.
Yes.
Some people do Sundays off, some people do Mondays off. Here at Penn State, we come in right away on Sunday. It's normally coming about 1, and you're there. You watch film, you're stretching, you're rolling out. You got a little bit of a lift. Now, if you're a D squad player, meaning that you're a practice squad player or a young freshman, and you didn't get to play a lot yesterday, today you have what we call the dirty show. Then the dirty show, I don't know if you guys had this. The dirty show is Sunday nights after practice is done. You finish all the corrections, you finish the film, everybody's feeling good after the week. You put that week behind you, whether it was win, loss, whatever, it's done. And now everybody gets to focus their attention. And, if you're a starter, you're out there in your jersey, that's it, cleats and jersey. Well, if you didn't play, you're out there full pads, shoulder pads, helmet, the whole nine, the pants, and you have a 21, 25 play scrimmage, and you just go at it. And the funny part about it is, too, and we've talked about this, is that the practice squad guys, they don't get a whole lot of reps running the offense or defense of Penn State. They don't run because they spend all week running the team we're playing. They try to pretend and mimic the other team we're playing as much as they can, as well as they can, for our offense or defense to get the best looks possible. So it can get a little chaotic because you got guys that haven't been running new plays that we're putting in, and you're trying to run plays with them. So it's a lot of basic stuff. But that is,
and if you don't understand, which 95% of the kids who are freshmen or aren't playing don't understand.
Oh no, and you kind of, and once you get, and I was just talking about this a couple days ago, as far as, I don't know if Joe did anything like this, but when I know freshmen didn't really play here, but here now at Penn State, you have a conversation after the fall camp ends and talk to Franklin. You're either green lit, yellow lit, or red lit. If you're red, that means, hey, take your butt to practice squad. You're going to be pretty much a practice dummy for the rest of the year. If you're yellow, that means you're probably on practice squad, but you have an opportunity to maybe help out, maybe some injuries, that type of thing. You bust your butt, you can do something. Now, if you're green lit as a freshman, that means you're going to burn your red shirt. And back in Goon's day, if you even stepped on the field for one play as a freshman, your red shirt was burned. Well, now you can play up to 4 games in college football, plus the college football playoffs. That no longer counts towards eligibility, essentially.
Anytime.
4 games anytime. It doesn't have to be consecutive. So you can play week 1, week 2, and then they might not play you for a while, and then they play you at the end for 2 games, and you still get to keep your red shirt. But you play in that 5th game, barring the college football playoffs, and you lose your red shirt. Well, Coach Franklin was coming into the season. He said there was only 2 guys that got their green light, essentially. And at the time, that was Dejan Lane. That's someone that we saw a ton yesterday due to the injury of KJ Winston, and someone that Franklin said in his press conference last week, he's going to be really important for Penn State down the stretch. And, I just want to talk about that for a second, is missing what I think KJ Winston is the best player on the field. I mean, we got some really talented guys, Abdul Carter. I'm talking offense and defense, Nick Singleton, all these guys. But I think KJ Winston, pound for pound, was the best player on this Penn State football team. So losing that on the back end especially hurts because, it's one thing if that's a pass rusher, that's great. But when you have that on the back end, he can make up for a lot of mistakes. When you have a safety that can cover ground, that sees stuff before it happens. I mean, that was a big piece of what KJ Winston did, is that he was so talented and he put in so much time in the film room where he was starting to say, I mean, that's how those safeties get really good, because they can anticipate like hell. And that's what you had in KJ Winston. Well, now you enter in a true freshman in Dejan Lane, and, you might be very confident in him, and you say, hey, this is a freshman that I think is going to be very good for us now and even better in the future. But that's not your first round draft pick, team captain safety back there that can pick stuff up. So, Penn State's going to have to overcome a little bit of injuries. Dom DeLuca had a cast on the sideline, that type of thing. I mean, there's injuries coming. Cam Wallace, who was our third string running back, had to get picked up off the field. So there is definitely going to be some next man up mentality. And I guess I want to ask you, was there any other times in the 90s where guys really had to step up on some good teams and fill in some big roles for a guy like KJ Winston, where a freshman had to come in?
Well, KJ Winston, I mean, he's the team leader and the team leader in tackles. I mean, that's a lot of stuff you got to replace right there. So it's not, you're not just getting the missing guy with leading the team in tackles. You're missing you're the heartbeat of the defense and the mindset, and he's the guy who brings the attitude to the defense, and he's the guy breaking guys down. This is what I've seen of him. You would know better than I would, but he's the leader of that defense. And now somebody needs to step up as a leader, whether it be a front guy, a linebacker, or a defensive back. Somebody's going to step up, and they will. People get forced into these situations. It works out. So let me think now. I'm just going to go up to 94 team, and that was, people will talk about all the time, and how our offense was so good and this and that, but then like how fast we scored. We put our defense in some real predicaments because they were just on the field all the time. And by like week 8 or 9, we were down like 6-7 starters. I mean, that was just, they were just getting put into a meat grinder. Like, we would have to play at Illinois, and that was the big comeback game versus the number 1 defense in the country, Simeon Rice, Dana Howard, Kevin Hardy, all these guys. We didn't have Vinny Stewart. I don't think we had Christmas Zeke. We had like 4 down tackles dressed. It was so bad, they moved us to a 30 front to start the game because they didn't have enough down tackles. That's how beat up the guys were. Eric Clare was hurt.
Was Brandon Noble starting on that team? He was a little guy.
He's short.
Well, at the time he was young too. Then
he's behind me. But we always used to call it the Noble factor because we, as the offensive linemen, used to yell like, "Will you please put him on the field?" But we had pretty good guys in front of him, and Vinny Stewart and Chris Mazik, and then Brandon was the third guy in rolling around. But he would just make things happen. Because you couldn't block him because he was so fast and so agile and mobile and low to the ground.
Those defensive tackles are, in my opinion, it's harder to go against a 6'1" defensive tackle than it is like a 6'4". It's I saw Zane Durant almost killed their quarterback. I hope all their quarterbacks are okay. We definitely did a number to their quarterbacks, but Zane Durant was wreaking havoc early on. That's someone that's a lot like you're saying, where he's low to the ground and able to really get up under your pads, and you can't get up under him, and that's what it's about with offensive line play.
The worst part about playing offensive line was going against a guy who goes 9,000 miles an hour every play. I'd rather go against a fat slob up front who doesn't, takes every third play off, and he's just like, you'd be like, all right, cool, chill,
Yeah, you were chilling.
Like let's play a little bit, there's balls going to the outside, he'll fake pursuit, and I'll, we'll fake like we're blocking and stuff like that. But it's the guys who are built low to the ground, the guys who just have a motor and do not stop that will wear you out as an offensive lineman.
Yeah.
And then back when I was playing, it was you didn't rotate too much. you rotate series. Nowadays, you're rotating like every third play. You got a whole new D line coming in. It's like, hey, man. And Larry Johnson started that here with, I'm going to put you in, but I need you going 1,000,000 miles an hour. And then when you can't go 1,000,000 miles an hour, I'm going to replace you with somebody else. You catch your breath and you're going to go right back in. So, it's O-line. That's the worst person to block.
That's a good point. But what's interesting? Offensive line and quarterback, I think those are the only two positions on the field that don't naturally rotate throughout a game nowadays. I mean, linebacker, anywhere on defense you rotate. Yeah. And then everywhere on offense except quarterback. And not even just quarterback for Penn State. You rotate a quarterback too. The offensive line are really the only guys that have to take every rep of their side of the ball. You were talking about relentless rushers, and I want to talk about for a second, Dani Dennis-Sutton and Abdul Carter both got their first sack of the season yesterday. And I think that was really good for the confidence because as much as they'd been getting after the quarterback, they didn't have a sack last week against Bowling Green or 2 weeks ago. And there was definitely some questions saying, hey, where's the production? We thought we had, Adisa Isaac and Chop Robinson went to the NFL. And it almost felt like there was no worry because it was like, hey, we got Dani and Chop coming right behind them. Yep. Well, the first couple games, really no production as far as the stat sheet. But West Virginia, they wreaked havoc on Garrett Green. And then Bowling Green, and Coach Franklin came out and said this last week, Bowling Green, their emphasis was do not let the Penn State front four affect us. We're going to get the ball out within 2 to 2.5 seconds. So there is a clear emphasis from these teams to try to take our guys out of the game because they know what type of game wreckers Dani Dennis-Sutton and Abdul Carter really are. But how about that second play? I've never seen a disastrous second play of the game where Dani gets his first strip sack, their quarterback has to get carted off, and then on top of that, Kobe King gets absolutely decapitated by one of the Kent State linemen. I don't know who that lineman is, Goon, but he might need to be looking into playing linebacker. I need to check on Kobe King after that hit. I mean, that was impressive, but I've never just sat there at the beginning of the game and just go, what just happened? Like everybody's reaction was like, what was that? Like it was a good play for Penn State, but it was just amazing to see something so chaotic happen. But I mean, I think it's nice. And it's different. And I think it's similar for offensive linemen. If you don't see it now, it's not the same because the defensive lineman's stats, they're directly correlated to them. Dani and Abdul can see, hey, I have a sack. I have this many TFLs. Same thing with offensive line. If we're not rushing for over at least, a team like this, at least 200 yards. But if you're not seeing it in the stat category and seeing that production, it starts to hurt that confidence a little bit. So, I like to see them get going. But, what do you think their importance is going down the stretch, especially without KJ Winston, this front four getting after the quarterback?
Yeah, and it's not just four. We got 8 to 10 guys rotating through there. And that's the thing is, again, keeping these guys fresh and keeping them going after the quarterback. Because we will be getting the Big Ten play, and as well as I do that the Big Ten play will wear you down. That's what USC learned the hard way yesterday against Michigan. UCLA, you learned against LSU yesterday. It is going to be it's a long season, and you better bring your big boy pants every week because a team like Indiana can just jump up you and beat you in the Big Ten. Illinois coming in here at 4-0 right now, which is awesome for them, good for them, and it's actually better for us, to be honest with you. Mm-hmm. But it just goes to show, you asked me before the show started, how good's Colorado? You watch the Colorado game, but it's like, how good's Nebraska? Nebraska beat Colorado. If Colorado's not that good, maybe Nebraska's not that good. It's just a weird,
right.
Everything's working out like that.
It is. It's interesting. I want to get into some of these other games too, and I want to talk a couple things. I want to talk the stat sheet a little bit, Tyler Warren. There's a couple other games that went on that I want to discuss, but we will do that right after this break. We are at the Student Bookstore, downtown State College. We are here every Sunday after home games, 10 to 11 a.m. You can come see me and Goon, and the Nittany Lion mascot will be at the Student Bookstore starting at 11 a.m. So bring the kids, bring the family out. But we will be right back after this short break.
The Center Hall Farm Store has been serving Center County and beyond for well over a half century. A small family business, the Center Hall Farm Store specializes in animal nutrition and manufactures its feed fresh using local ingredients. Get the best in horse, cow, pig, chicken, and bird feeds. If you're not already a customer, stop in and see why so many of your neighbors are. The Center Hall Farm Store at 110 West Allison Street in Center Hall, or call us at 814-364-1393.
A lot has changed about State College. One thing that hasn't is W.C. Clark's Coffee Roasters on 234 East Calder Way. 30 different varieties of specialty coffee beans sourced from over 25 countries and roasted with love each morning in Happy Valley for over 45 years. They'll ship their fresh roasted coffee from their doorstep to yours. Order online at statecollegecoffee.com. That's statecollegecoffee.com.
Two of the top names in local printing have combined to serve you better. King Printing of State College has merged with theprinters.com, forming one of the 400 largest printers in America. Combining traditional offset printing and digital workflow techniques, theprinters.com can print, assemble, package, and ship to anywhere in the world, all with the same high quality customers have known and trusted for over 50 years. Buy local and save. Get started today at theprinters.com.
Ready to be part of something bigger? Come pave the road to success at Glen O'Habaker and discover a career where your hard work and determination can build a bigger, better future. Our team believes we can build a stronger future together. Join us at Glen O'Habaker, where we value teamwork on the field and on the job. Go to GOHcareers.com to apply. GOHcareers.com. And best of luck to all the Center County sports teams all season long from everyone at Glen O'Habaker.
With a Timber Kids savings account, you can start to save money, earn prizes, and teach your kids the value of savings. It's easy as 1, 2, 3. Building futures is what we do at TFCU.
You really need to belong to a credit union. You belong at TFCU, Timberland Federal Credit Union, a credit union you can grow with.
You have to get going with the Happy Valleys 98.7 The Fox.
Welcome back into the morning after post-game show. We are down here at the Student Bookstore, downtown State College. Me and Goon are going to be here every Sunday morning after home games, 10 to 11 a.m. Stop by and check us out, as well as the Nittany Lion mascot will be here starting at 11 a.m. So bring the kids, bring the family on down to the Student Bookstore downtown. Let's get back into this game, Goon. And
back into the last week we talked about up there.
What's that?
The Lion had like 85 people waiting for it.
Oh, I know.
You were up here,
dude. We
working.
were chopped liver up here. The Lion was out front of the Student Bookstore. And you're right. The line must have wrapped all the way up to. I mean, it was amazing how many people are out here to see the Nittany Lion mascot. So, I mean, if you want to,
you said you know the guy who's.
I do know the guy, and it's I think it's
a fantastic story for you.
Really
about the Lion.
I want to hear it. Is it
awesome?
I want to hear it. Yeah, I didn't know. People aren't supposed to know who he is, right?
Yeah,
that's a thing. Okay, I wasn't sure, but I want to hear your story. I didn't know that was a thing. I thought people knew.
We. As students, I mean, we know who it is because he's on the sideline looking at it. He looks, you can see through his little snout, But our Lion in '94 was a former Penn State wrestler. Okay, so when the mascots in like the third quarter, they have like, okay, we're gonna go into the end zone, we'll have a little show off, and we'll start wrestling. But our guy would do it for real, and I'm telling you, he would be beating the tar out of other mascots. And then we were beating the crap out of so many people that we would be our whole offensive line would just be sitting in like the 30-yard line, looking in the end zone and watching this dude just pummel the visiting. Like he had the Temple Owl, he had him on the ground. He had him like he took him down, and like he was like working him, and he had like an arm bar on him and stuff like that, and he was like pinning him and stuff like that. It was so funny. We always used to be like, "Yo, dude," he'd be like, we used to get him all wound up. He's like, "I got it. I'm on it. I got it. And he used to go out and just beat the crap out of the other mascots.
That's great story. I don't think we even do anything close to that. Now all they do is one-handed push-ups nowadays. That's
always done that.
That's been a thing for a long time.
It was when I got here when I started coming here as a kid in '83.
Really? Okay.
Sitting there, and it was you never knew.
That's good. I was just learning recently, like when the We Are chant, all that stuff, it wasn't that. I mean, it was a little bit. It was like, what, like 30, 40 years ago? I think it was made by the cheerleaders in the late 80s, I want to say. No?
Way before that.
Way before. Are you sure?
The Wally Triple thing?
No, it was
We Are during the game.
No. Like when they really started making it a chant, my understanding, that didn't happen until like the late 70s, early 80s, I thought, where they started really making it like the cheerleaders, and they did like the.
I remember when I was like a kid, like the Nittany Lion would come out and he would like point to the east section of the stadium, and then we are. And he would do the other side.
Yeah, okay.
We are.
Oh, so they've been doing that for a while
They've been
then.
doing that since I remember.
Okay.
We all know the story of where the we are comes from, and that's the Wally triplet situation.
Yep.
And that's what makes Penn State a proud Penn State team.
Absolutely.
Then, one of the 3 people who use we are.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Marshall uses it.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And USC also.
Really?
Segue into the USC.
Way to
Wow,
segue into
about
USC, and that's Goon, and that's why he's been doing this for a while.
This is what the tutelage I'm giving you.
It's a lesson every time I get on air with Goon, man. He is talking about USC at Michigan, and Michigan took it 27-24 yesterday. USC was ranked 11. Michigan was ranked 18th. And honestly, going into this game, I thought USC was going to handle them. And just let's roll down some of these stats real quick because there were just some fantastical things going on here. Number one, fantastical. Oh yeah, come on. I did my SAT prep course. I didn't have to do it actually. Fun fact: my SAT, it happened. I was coming here basically right when COVID happened, and that was when most universities decided to cut SAT requirements. So I did all the prep, and then I didn't have to do it. And I'm very glad. I'm not very good at standardized tests, Goon, but I did the prep and I know my words. But let's get into these USC-Michigan game. USC threw the ball 52 times, Miller Moss. I mean, there is a clear emphasis that they want to pass the ball out in Southern California. And I mean, it's interesting. And the only thing I want to pose off of that is that, like I said, I don't want to keep bringing it up, but KJ Winston, we don't know how long he's out, but it doesn't seem like we'll have him in a couple of weeks for USC. They like to pass the ball, so our back end of our defense better be ready. They are really not attempting to run the ball too much. Now, my favorite passing stat, I mean, that's a lot of passes, but my favorite passing stat from this Michigan game, Alex Orji, who they brought in to replace Davis Warren. Michigan is so bad at passing, they had a walk-on starting, and then they had to bench him after he threw 3 interceptions against Arkansas State last week. They bring in Alex Orji, and against the number 11 team in the nation, they throw the ball 12 times for 7 completions for 32 yards. I mean, how do you beat the number 11 team in the nation with 32 yards passing? I think that's only something Michigan can do. Now, they had 290 yards running on the ground, and Donovan Edwards has thought to be the guy. He was the college football 25 cover athlete. He was supposed to be the dude after Blake Corum left. Well, Blake Corum left. Michigan graduated all 5 offensive linemen. I'm be honest, I don't want to compare too much, but that Michigan offensive line from like last year and the year before, that's up there with you guys from the 90s, man. I mean, they all went in the draft for the most part. I mean, that was a good team, and I'm really good friends with one of the backup offensive linemen at Michigan that was there during that time, and they have like shirts made. I don't know if you remember when we went to Michigan 2 years ago, and I think they rushed for like 400 yards on our defense. 423, and they have shirts that said that yardage on them, and versus Penn State. So, sorry, I don't mean to share that. That was probably a little bit of a downer, but just saying that to say the run game is clearly an emphasis for Michigan, while the pass game was for USC. But dude, I didn't think Michigan was going to be able to do this. I'm going to be honest, and I'm curious.
I mean, you watch that. I can't believe they allowed that run to end the game.
I know.
Not the fourth quarter, not the touchdown run, but like the guy breaking 4 tackles down the middle of the field, going to the inside the red zone. It was like, what is USC doing? Like, I mean, that's on them.
I know, and you allow this young dude, Khalil Mullings. Actually, he's a senior. Where did he come from? Because like I said, Donovan Edwards supposed to be the guy. Khalil Mullings is a running back number 20 for Michigan. He came in yesterday, had 17 carries for 159 yards, and he was averaging 9.4 yards per carry. And you're right. If it wasn't for that cat, I don't think Michigan was close.
Nope.
But he was relentless running the ball. And you know, as much as the Michigan offensive line has been good, they had, let me see, I think yesterday they let up 7 tackles for loss. That's what USC defense did. They had 7 tackles for loss against that Michigan rushing attack. So
would a sack be a tackle for loss?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. They only had 2 sacks, I believe, against this Michigan team, which is kind of impressive to have 2 sacks when they only dropped back, 5 times.
Yeah, because I'm watching that game and I was like the quarterback, and they were like, should they were talking during the game about replacing him because they was just getting no offense out of him. And then the next play, he dropped back for a pass, and he had like 0.3 seconds before he got just absolutely mauled. And I was like, it's not that kid's fault. I mean, he has no chance to even think about what he's trying to do out there.
You're right. I mean, obviously, we don't play Michigan this year.
He's obviously an offensive lineman, so he is going to press for the offensive line, for the run game, that type of thing. And that's a typical Michigan thing, winning that game out there. And
It is. I'm not sold on Michigan though. I don't really think they're that good at all. I don't think you can continuously win games with 32 yards passing. Like their quarter, they just don't have a competent quarterback. You're not going to win a lot of games with that. But it definitely begs the question. Kind of, I'm not going to say it's not like Jekyll and Hyde with USC where they're two completely different teams, but they looked a lot different versus LSU. I'm curious which USC we're going to get when we go out there in a couple weeks. So there's definitely something to keep an eye on. And I think this is the game people will probably look to the most when it is time to play USC to kind of compare and how we stack up. But hey, as Goon reminded me earlier, we are 1-0. We are focused on Illinois. So Goon, let's get back. What's that?
Gotta be.
Bielema
knows how to coach, man.
He
is a heck of a coach, and he's getting his guys in there. And you talk about offensive line play and defensive line play. That's his baby.
Well, I'll tell you what, Goon. I don't like to think about it. It is still to this day probably the most embarrassed I have been after a football game, and I didn't even play in it. My freshman year, it was homecoming. And guess what it is next week? It is homecoming. They're honoring this big guy right here and the rest of the 94 team for that 94 Rose Bowl season. But that's what happened a couple years ago. It was 2021. Illinois came to town. I'm sorry to remind you, and it was a 9 overtime loss for Penn State. And that was a hard time. And I remember that Illinois came through. I think they had 8 offensive linemen on the field at once. I mean, they wanted to come in and run the ball. Now, they're still going to come in and run the ball. They have a running back that is 6'3", 250, number 3. And so there is going to be, we need to tackle. The linebackers are going to have to show up, and especially where, you don't know, you might be a little bit limited at linebacker. You're already limited at safety because when KJ Winston got hurt, that means, hey, Jalen Reed's got to go play his position. Well, now Zakee Wheatley and a couple other guys, Dejon Lane, have to do some stuff. And now you can't be in that 4-2-5 as much where you're playing that safety hybrid linebacker role. It has to be a true linebacker. Well, now Dom DeLuca's hurt. So, no, there's a lot of moving pieces with this Penn State defense. I am curious to see how they are going to shape this against the Illinois offense that wants to run the ball a lot. And clearly they have put an emphasis of putting extra offensive linemen out there. But Luke Altmaier, their quarterback, coming into this season was not someone anybody was really worried about. Luke Altmaier is now in the running for maybe one of the best quarterbacks in the Big Ten up to this point. Now, we'll see. He played a good defense last week. This will be the best one he will play up to this point, really, in his career. But it's going to be a big test for this Nittany Lions defense coming in to Illinois, and it's going to be fun. I'm hearing a lot of talk about the fans. They're saying they're going to create their own whiteout. I'm curious about that. People are kind of mad that it's not Illinois whiteout, which you can't blame the people that pick it, because if you would have picked Illinois back in July, people would have been mad and they would have said there's no way. It's homecoming. Yeah, it's homecoming. So you can't do that.
Homecoming, it is what it's either or.
I respect it. And we're honoring the 94 guys. So
talking about doing white. Isn't there a stripe out or what kind of single?
I don't. Thing? I think the stripe out is UCLA. I want to say, which is in 2 weeks. But
and there's just the one stripe.
Well, that's the helmet. That's the helmet stripe. You know what? There's a lot. We got a lot of stuff going on here at Penn State. You're right. I want to say the stripe out. Isn't that Ohio State? And then the helmet stripe is UCLA? I don't know. We'll figure that out. But all I know is it's homecoming next weekend.
And we better be ready to – Brett Bielema is going to come in and do the exact same thing he did in that 9 overtime game.
Mm-hmm.
And he's going to say, we're going to run the ball. I don't think you're tough enough to stop the run.
Well, that's the thing. If they get going early, we need to come out. We can't come out of sleep. No. We cannot come out of sleep against this Illinois team.
And I don't think we will. I mean, I think that – something about the bye weeks. There's a little lapse in time. The cobwebs are. That's not just Penn State. I mean, it's a normal occurrence of not playing for 2 weeks, where you get into this routine now, where they're in their regular routine that will be for the next 8 weeks, and that is 6 weeks before the next bye. Your Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday are all set. We're going to go down the same thing every week. It's game week, how we're going to handle it, and you get in that comfort zone and you go out and get ready to play, and you play the game on Saturday. And, as I said, Bielema and Illinois are going to come in here and they're going to try to do the exact same thing here they did, 3-4 years ago?
Yep.
And that is just bludgeon Penn State with huge offensive linemen, huge tight ends and running backs, and just say, Bielema's just going to say, I can't match up with you that way.
Yeah,
can't do
from
it.
a skill set, they don't have the
cannot-
same
yeah,
skill
we
that Penn
can't
State has.
outmatch you, but we can out-tough you, out-meanness you, all this and all that, and we're going to try and we're going to go run the ball, and we're going to play big boy football on Penn State. And until we stop that, he's not going to stop doing it. He did the same thing when he was at Wisconsin. I mean, he just built these huge offensive lines and just started mashing people. Defensive line, same way. So, I mean, there's no secret to what Brett Bielema does. He's a defensive lineman to begin with. I mean, he's a mutant nose tackle from Iowa who was corn-fed up in Nebraska, and not Nebraska, but he in Wisconsin, Arkansas, and now he's back down to Illinois.
Yeah, and they're a well-coached team. That was my biggest takeaway, I think, coming away from watching that Illinois-Nebraska game last Friday night. I was like, this is a well-coached team. They were helped out a little bit by the refs. I'll give them that. The refs seemed like they were a little bit on Illinois' side. But, I mean, as a whole, I came away really impressed with some of their scheme, too. There was some plays where they really schemed their guys open, snuck them out of the backfield. And it's like, okay, we definitely got to come ready. And I want to talk about this one question we have in the chat, basically asking, is there any concern of the lack of turnovers? And, we didn't have any turnovers yesterday. And I think I said this pregame. This is the key to routing a team by 60 points is getting those turnovers early on where you are getting Drew Aller the ball on, the 20+ yard line where, you get a couple turnovers. Like I mentioned against Tennessee, Kent State had 2 fumbles on their first 2 drives, one resulting in a safety. That is how you start to route teams. So that's why it took us a little bit to get going, because we didn't do what other teams did against Kent State, where they got a couple turnovers early on. The offense started humming. It took us till about midway through the second quarter for the offense to really get humming. And then it was like, okay, we're going to be okay. So I guess there is a little bit of concern of the fact that we have not been creating a ton of turnovers. Although I will tell you, when it was crunch time against Bowling Green, we had that Tony Rojas pick was really impressive. And I think that was almost more important. I know there's a Key Wheatley pick. He picked it off. The next play, Nick Singleton took it for a touchdown against Bowling Green. And that was a huge change of the tide. But that Tony Rojas pick, people don't remember, Bowling Green was on like the 30. They were on their own like 35, 40-yard line. They were starting to drive, only down 3 points. And when Tony Rojas picked that off, we ended up going 3 and out and punting again. And then they threw this a key pick. But when Tony picked that off, I mean, that stalled their drive. And they had some momentum. They were starting to move. So the one thing I will say about that is that up to this point, the defense has showed up when we need them to. I know in a game like this, you want to see some turnovers, and obviously Denai had that forced fumble at the beginning, but I wouldn't get too worried about it and too caught up in the stat sheet. I think that's something that you need to just kind of watch on paper. And is your defense being chaotic? Are they getting after the quarterback? And you start to create enough duress for the quarterback and put him under pressure, get them in 3rd and longs, 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9. That is when you start to get those turnovers. So the most important thing for me is playing good defense on 1st and 2nd down against Illinois next week and forcing Luke Altmaier to have to make some really tough throws. Yep. But he did it last week. I mean, they looked good, and he spread the ball around. I'm just looking at this Illinois-Nebraska stat sheet. I think it got more than 10 guys on Illinois had a reception in the game. So there is also some clear emphasis to get everybody involved on that Illinois offense. So Penn State defense is definitely going to have to come ready. But Goon, I want to talk about for a second is these Penn State wide receivers. And when we sat here 2 weeks ago after Bowling Green, there was a little bit of concern. Tyler Warren had a record-setting day, but it was like, okay, Trey Wallace had a great week at West Virginia, but we didn't really see a wide receiver get the ball. Up to before yesterday, Liam Clifford had no catches. Julian Fleming had 1 catch for 3 yards. And it was like, okay, we heard a lot about these guys. Julian came in out of Ohio State. We brought him in. Liam Clifford was getting a lot of love from the coaches. Well, enter yesterday, and going into halftime, there was 6 players with a reception going into halftime. All 6 had more than 1 reception as well. So that is how you get guys involved. Seeing that stat line when I just kind of went at halftime and said, I was like, I just want to take a look at where we're at. I was like, I like that a lot. Amari Evans, obviously stretching the field deep, and we've seen that pretty much every game now. We have taken a deep shot to Amari Evans. I love that because we didn't do that last year. We did not. And I don't think people even realize how important that really is to have a defense of saying, okay, they might throw it deep 2 or 3 times a game and just test us. that is really important to keep a defense kind of on their toes. And what was happening last year is we were not throwing the ball deep. We were continually just running the ball. We were throwing at the sticks, meaning we were throwing at the first down marker or even closer. It was just, hey, take what they give you, take what they give you. That sounds good as an offense until they start putting 7, 8 guys in the box, crowding the line of scrimmage. It's harder to run the ball. So that all has a direct correlation on the rest of the offense. You want to know why Nick Singleton is definitely having a bit of a better season. Well, that has a direct correlation that we're stretching the field. The defense has to back up a little bit and respect that. Hey, Nick Singleton can now get going a little bit easier.
Yep.
So I think that was really important to see a bunch of wide receivers get going. Julian Fleming had a nice, really, really nice catch over the middle towards the end. And then Liam Clifford capped off that drive with a touchdown catch. And then they did a little smash the beer on the helmet, crack it open, and, throw it back. So I like to see the celebrations coming from the boys too. I guess my only thing is there wasn't anything too explosive in the run. And I'm, guys, I'm a nitpicker. This is like Sunday morning in the film room almost, where we're just kind of, talking about stuff. And the longest run of the day was 18 yards by Nick Singleton, which is good. But I think against the Kent State team, where we talked about the skill gap is so huge, Nick Singleton's faster than every player on that defense. I would have liked to see a nice, 70-yard run like he did against Ohio a couple years ago, Auburn, that type of thing. But, beggars can't be choosers. We had a great day through the air, and as offense as a whole, I think we had about, it was around 720 yards. It was like 719, where we broke the record for offensive yardage in a game. And I think that stood, it was like 1920 or something. It was like 19. It was back when Goon was playing, something like that.
Yeah. I've taught you so well. I was getting ready to break your chops. I was going to say, how could you let this go? It's a 100-year-old record. And I was like, dude, if I taught you anything, I know I teach you how to break chops. And
that's true.
God, good for you.
Yeah.
Because I was going to come in and say, yeah, that was my sophomore year. We had 716 versus Susquehanna.
That's what it was.
Yep.
It was Susquehanna. So
100 plus years they've had this record. And
I wonder how much of that was rushing back with Susquehanna. It had to be majority rushing.
Yeah, I don't even think they even had the forward pass.
No, it wasn't invented yet.
Yeah. That was invented my sophomore year.
Okay, interesting. Okay. And then
it's the segue into the offense for the Illinois game this week.
It is. Let's talk about it, because they're going to have to perform, and I think they performed pretty well up to this point. Now, there's always drives as an offense where they stall out a little bit, but overall, Andy Kotonicki has continuously impressed me in every game. There hasn't really been a game where I'm mad at Andy Kotonicki or anything like that. And that's nice to say as a Penn State fan. I don't think it felt like that for the past couple of years, where you were not mad at the offensive coordinator. That's how a lot of Penn State fans spent their time. And doing cool stuff. We saw Tyler Warren at Wildcat as the quarterback. We saw Tyler Warren throw a touchdown pass. Earlier that drive, we also saw Tyler Warren with, I think, the most spectacular catch I've ever seen from a tight end in a long, long time. So I think we have one of the most special players in Tyler Warren, and the fact that he decided to come back was huge for this offense. I think he's going to be vital next week against Illinois. I also question what wide receivers are going to continue to really get involved. Now, like I said, against a little bit more of a lackluster team, but we see Liam Clifford, Amari Evans, Trey Wallace did have a couple catches. Obviously, Julian Fleming getting involved. So I am curious to see. I think we had 10 guys with a reception yesterday. So, obviously a lot of guys got to play towards the end of the game. And then Tyseer Denmark, that's a young, true freshman that has really impressed the coaches. And they're saying, hey, there's an opportunity for him to also get some playing time. So, we'll see. It might be wide receiver by committee, where this week this guy pops off and the next week it's someone else. I think after West Virginia, there was this expectation that Trey Wallace is going to kind of be the guy. We're jury's still kind of out on that, but he's definitely a playmaker with someone that has a 40-inch vertical. But one thing that I can confirm is that Tyler Warren is the best tight end in college football. And we got to sit down with him after his Bowling Green game, and it wraps it up perfect, because I asked Tyler, hey, what do you like more, pancaking a guy or catching a touchdown? Because the tight end position is so unique in the fact that you are an offensive lineman and a wide receiver all in one. And you have to have that mindset where you have to block someone and try to put them in the dirt.
Accepted by neither.
accepted by need. That's a great point. They're kind of these weird, funky, unique guys, and you're not a part of the O-line or the wide receivers, but you're right. You're just kind of this.
You're at the table.
You can get invited to the table.
You're at the table, but you're not in the
Yeah, you're not. Yeah, you're not. You're not truly one of the guys.
Nor are you a wide receiver.
You're not. So but Tyler Warren plays it better than anybody I've ever seen.
Damn good, man.
And now he's throwing the ball too. He was very close to a third touchdown. They almost got him. So I just want to continue to see, obviously, and trust me, Andy Kotelnicki's going to keep doing it. Get him the ball, whether that's him passing the ball, running the ball, whatever it is. Obviously, majority catching. I like seeing Tyler Warren really involved in this offense. They've done a great job. We passed for 409 yards, 17 of those yards thanks to Tyler Warren. But Drew Aller went for 309, 3 touchdowns through the air. Had an overall pretty good day.
He looked good.
He looked good.
Confident.
That's my thing. Drew Aller, the stats up to this point, I have to look exactly where he was at week 3 last year, but the stats look pretty similar. He had similar stats, but to the naked eye, to the fan, I think you can sit back and say, hey, Drew Aller looks different this year. He looks comfortable. He looks like he's having fun playing football. That is the big. I mean, you can attest that.
Stiff and rigid last
year. Yeah, and when you are not, inspired by your offensive play calling, and you are not, trusting that it's good offensive play calling, you're not going to have confidence in yourself. The confidence goes out the window. It all starts with the OC, and then it trickles down to the quarterback, run game, all that stuff. So when you have Andy Kotelnicki having these guys play inspired, having them, having fun playing, it trickles down. And you see, and I think that was Drew Aller's biggest thing. He had all the intangibles. He's 6'5". He has a huge arm. He can now run the ball. He lost 7 or 8 pounds coming into this year. You saw him extend a couple drives again with his legs yesterday. He's having fun. He looks different, and I like it. And now he finally gets his first real test, I think, against an actual good defense, because as much as that Bowling Green team is pretty good, West Virginia is okay. Both of their defenses are pretty bad. So, and then obviously Kent State is barely a football team. No disrespect if you're a Kent State fan tuning in. But he's going to have a test against Illinois. And I think one thing that has yet to been talked about, I know we just finished Kent State, Illinois' front seven, but particularly that defensive line, definitely gave Penn State a little bit of trouble last year. Now, that was okay with Olu Fashanu at left tackle, Caden Wallace at right tackle. They both just played against each other Thursday, I believe that was Thursday night. And you had some dudes, Hunter Norzad, 6th-year center. It's a little bit different this year. I'm not worried about center. Nick Dawkins is handling his job very well and leading that offensive line. But you got Drew Shelton, Anthony Donka, some younger dudes out there at tackle. There is some opportunity for this Illinois defensive line, and they got after Raiola. And Raiola, as much as he thinks he's like Mahomes, he's not Mahomes, but he is really good at escaping and being that escape artist that you love to see from these mobile quarterbacks nowadays. And Illinois got after him. So I am definitely curious to see what type of defensive packages Illinois is going to scheme up for Drew Aller, who is a little bit less mobile than Dylan Raiola. And so it should be fun to see what they come with. But I'll tell you, I think Illinois, they're going to pull out all the stops. I need to look at their schedule, but I don't know who else they play. I don't know if they have like Ohio State or Michigan. I'm sure they have one of the other guys on there. But this is a really big game, and it's going to be a top 20 matchup. Goon coming in this game. I mean, they were 24 versus I think 23 or 22 was Nebraska. So Nebraska will probably fall out of the top 25. And now I think Illinois jumps into the top 20. So we have a top 20 matchup, 7:30 Beaver Stadium next Saturday.
We know what Brett Bielema and the Illinois Fighting Illini are going to do. They're going to come in here, and he's going to sit there and say, "This is 1987. This is 1987 Big Ten football. This is what he's going to go back to that." And he's going to sit there and say he's going to pressure the quarterback because he's not proven that he can handle pressure and stuff like that this year. Because last year when he started getting hit at Ohio State, Michigan, he changed, his game changed, and he refused to go down the middle of the field a lot. We're threatening that more nowadays. We're talking about the maturation of Aller right now, and that is he is throwing the ball down the field, and you have a Tyler Warren, but it's going to come down to the offensive defensive line. Just sit it front sevens.
Yeah.
Because I'm telling you, he's going to come out with those 9 offensive linemen sets like he did in the 9 overtime game against us.
No, you're right. And I think someone said in the
We've got to
comments,
be ready to go.
yeah, we do. The Illinois defensive backs haven't looked too shabby either. Jack Straw says in the comments that's a fact. That interception was really nice from one of their DBs. And I'm looking at Illinois versus Nebraska. Illinois had 5 sacks and 7 tackles for loss against Nebraska. Those Cornhuskers, they get those offensive linemen straight out of the farms, and so that Nebraska's offensive line isn't bad. And so there is clearly going to be a test for this Penn State offensive line. I mean, like that's they bring some
And
good
the defensive line.
You're
But
damn right.
They're going to put 8, 9 offensive linemen out there like he did. We didn't stop it then.
No.
Well, the Lion must be here.
Oh, the Lion's here. Make your way on. Hey,
the Lion's here.
come on down to
Yep.
Student Bookstore, downtown State College. We are here Sundays, home games, 10 to 11 a.m. And the Nittany Lion mascot starts to kind of get here around 10:45. The line is, I mean, we have
50 deep.
we got fans and just families just all here. So everybody, make your way all down to the Student Bookstore. Me and Keith Goon Conlin. You are listening to Landon Tangwall and Keith Goon Conlin, 2 washed up former Penn State offensive linemen, just shooting the crap, having a good time talking Penn State football. But hey, we have a good time with it, man. I'll tell you what.
I got a
Goon.
week ahead of everybody.
Yeah.
I
How so?
I got to be prepared for Illinois myself.
Yeah, you got to get out on the field, dude.
I know.
Well, I mean, I'm excited to see that. That'll be fun. It'll be good.
7:30 at night, it might be stumbling on the.
Yeah, that should be fun to watch. How many guys are? That should be the game at home. See how many guys are actually coherent going onto the field from that '94 team.
Man.
Good, dude.
We'll be all right.
Yeah, it's gonna be a fun weekend, and hopefully we are taking care of Illinois. But honestly, I mean, I think it's gonna come down to the last snap next weekend.
Yeah.
I don't want it to. I would love for us to be able to just take care of business, but that Illinois team, I think they're too good for this to be something that we handle, by the third quarter or anything like that. Goon, real quick, I have to give myself my own shout out. I'm very active on Twitter. I'm sure you've seen me, so follow me if you haven't.
Spelled my name yet, right?
I do spell your name right. It's I, not at a O for
Thank you.
Conlin. I think I messed that up one time, and
Hey,
I
you
have
put A
still.
like Shane.
Yes, I put an A because Shane Conlin. That's a good point. I think a lot of people probably think you're related.
Dude, my high school quote was, "Are you Shane's brother?" That's what I had to deal with my whole life.
That's great for you.
My brother was an All-American on the same football team as Shane in 1986. Their both names were Conlin. One was spelled differently, and they're going to be, oh, his brother played here. Oh, my God, Shane Conlin. Oh, my God, wow. Now, we call ourselves, me, Chris is my older brother. He was on the 86 team. My younger brother, Kevin, the puppy, he was with me. He got down here in 97. We call ourselves the happy fat people. The happy Conlins, where those linebackers are a little weird. They're missing teeth and stuff like that.
Well, they were going downhill all their life, just smashing their helmets. Oh, we have a little bit more close contact. They have long form content, just hitting running backs.
We are cousins, me and Shane, and we always tell ourselves cousins. We just came over on the same boat. We just get dropped off at different ports. We'd say. So that's
they just changed the one letter on the last name, and it's all the same blood. Well, check me out on Twitter at Landon Tangwall if you don't, and stay up to speed with all Penn State football stuff. I am always giving you guys the newest stats, breakdowns.
You do a great job, bro.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I try.
You got me yesterday.
How's that?
You got me.
What did I do?
Tangwell on the streets with who was the
I did
quarterback and wide receiver.
I do. So
I'm laying in bed last night, and I'm so mad at myself, and I'm like, it had to be a guy who had at least 2-3 years with somebody.
It is. That's a
huge thing.
That is the point. So I go around, I do man on the street videos where I do Penn State football trivia around the tailgates. It's Tang on the street. I like that. All right, so now we have a new motto. I appreciate Goon. We do these shows together, and it always turns out good for me in some way, shape, or form, man.
I'm just handling down look at my head.
It's big.
So
What's big? It's
much
huge.
Information in there.
Did they make a double XL helmet for you?
I don't have a big head. It's a long.
It's just okay. So they had just make it
like a horse. Like pretty much they had to put blinders on me when they bolted the face mask onto my head. And that's why I had the concussion problems.
That's great. Yeah, well, hey, you mean both, man. Yeah. But so check me out on Twitter. But I finally getting to what I was saying is I predicted yesterday before the game. Penn State has only rushed for over 300 yards once in the Nick Singleton, Katron Allen era since the start of 2022. And I said before the game, they will do it for a second time yesterday. Ooh. They did indeed do it. They did it. I have video evidence too. So I'll be getting that out there on Twitter. But they rushed for 309 yards yesterday, so
Kent
proud
State
of that one.
plays Good counsel next week.
Yeah.
It's homecoming with Kent State. They play Good counsel.
They bring a high school team. They bring my high school team to that. We might beat them actually.
My Lord, I'm not gonna lie. I mean, that was one of the worst college football teams I think I've ever seen.
Yeah, I mean, just watching their offense, watching them try to operate, it was like, wow, okay, this is really, really bad. I guess that's why I was kind of shocked we really didn't get any turnovers, is just how just disorganized that offense was. And while we got about 5 minutes left, I want to talk about the fact of what are those Kent State guys in the locker room thinking? I mean, they're checked out. They don't care. For the most part, I think when you give an FCS team, they gave St. Francis their first. St. Francis University in PA, shout out St. Francis, has been a. Oh yeah, I don't even know who that is.
He's a guy. I played a high school all-star game with him.
Okay.
He ended up playing in IUP and then the NFL for the
Oh, okay, good shout out. I like that.
Offensive lineman. He's
all
the
right.
coach there.
Oh, okay. Shout out. Well, he's doing a great job as St. Francis University has been around for about 100 years now. They've had a football program for about 100 years, and they just got their first ever FBS win 2 weeks ago against Kent State. So Kent State is setting records for how bad they are up to this point. So I think, it was we were supposed to handle business and we did, but this Kent State team, I think, after you give a team their first ever FBS win in 100 years, you start to lose guys a little bit. Then you go into Tennessee and you're down 65-0 at halftime. They're kicking onside kicks on you and they're up 40 points. I don't know. Then you come here. I need to look at the rest of Kent State's schedule. I think they're probably headed into MAC conference play. But dude, those poor guys, they're checked. To me, I think they're checked out. You're 0-4 now. I don't know how much you're bringing to practice every day if you're really that inspired. Because we talked about playing inspired. I don't think Kent State players are very inspired anymore, Goon.
Well, it might be all right because they're going to be in they're in the MAC play now, so they're all 0-0.
Maybe they got to play Bowling Green. That won't be good for them.
Exactly. So that's just.
What
I really would like to get the feel of those because I mean we talked about it last week. I'm like, how do you go in front of playing 212,000 people in the last 2 weeks and not score a point and like? How are you
0 points.
How are you getting ready to go to practice? How are you getting ready to get up today and say, let's go do this. Let's get this done today. I mean, that's called leadership if you have it, it's just a bad program out there.
Yeah, it's hard when there's nothing to like fight for or win. Guys, I'm just telling you, this line at the student bookstore for this Nittany Lion mascot, it is, I'll say it again because I used it earlier. It's fantastical. That is my SAT word of the day.
It's not even a real word.
Fantastical? It has to be a word, Goon.
There's no way fantastical.
Goon, we're both. Well, I am about to get my degree from here. What did you major in?
History.
Oh, wow. Do you know any history? What kind of history? Yeah, exactly. Okay. That's what I thought. That makes sense.
I have a master's.
Oh, really? In history as well?
No. There's health education.
Oh, okay. Gym teacher, huh?
Yes. I say.
I'd love to have Goon as a gym teacher.
Health education. It was don't chew tobacco, don't drink beer. Just do everything that Goon doesn't do.
Oh, okay. That's a good motto. I like that.
That's it.
Real quick, let's do some cleanup. Someone was asking about younger players that stood out. I just want to do some quick cleanup, give you guys some information before we get out of here. Coach Franklin said it after week 1 at West Virginia. Do not be surprised if there's a lot of movement as far as who starts where on the team. He was directly referring to the cornerbacks. Well, yesterday, the starters were Jalen Kimber and Elliott Washington, who has the only pick for a cornerback on the season for this Penn State roster. They started on the outside, and then I believe they started Cam Miller in the slot, actually. So there's a lot of movement starting those cornerbacks around, moving them around. As far as younger guys, Luke Reynolds, I think, is going to continue this tradition of really talented tight ends at Penn State. He climbed the ladder for a really impressive catch later in the game. And I was talking about earlier, guys getting greenlit, meaning that they get to burn their red shirt. Fantastical is a word. It also shows up on iPhone autofill. Jack, thank you. I appreciate that. That is my broadcast journalism degree coming to life. Thank you. That's fantastical. That's fantastical. So the last thing on Luke Reynolds, I think, and Tyler Warren has given him a lot of praise. Getting to come up behind Tyler Warren and learn from him, I think the importance of that can't be overstated. And I'm excited to see these guys continue to go. And Lord knows,
50,
Cooper Cousins, young guy, legit. Dude, he's legit. He is going to be the offensive, and he's like He does all he's a freshman, and you know that freshmen aren't allowed to talk to the media, but he's already like the guy that runs the show. Like he's doing all the videos.
I watched him pretty close yesterday playing.
Dude, I love him.
He holds.
You know, a little hold here.
It's great. It's a beautiful thing.
It's lovely.
He doesn't he knows how to place his hands and where to place them and hold without getting in trouble.
He's talented. I'm excited to watch these young guys. All right, guys, that was the morning after post-game show with me and Keith Goon, Conlin, Landon Tangwall. Come check out the student bookstore downtown. We're here Sundays after home games, 10 to 11 a.m. Come see the Nittany Lion mascot right now. Appreciate you guys tuning in. See you next time.